Well, what's up, everybody? This is Bishop Chris Johnson, aka the Greatness Coach, bringing you another episode of the Pastor Plus podcast. And I'm having conversations with individuals who I believe embody this whole concept of doing ministry and or affecting the marketplace in other spaces. And today, I have a very special guest who I'm excited to talk to on today. Her name is Ek Confidence. Ek, so good to have you today.
Thank you for having me, Pastor Chris. I'm so happy to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. So now there's going to be some people who are listening right now who may not know your story. So let's start there. Can you kind of tell us your story and what it is that you do and how you are where you are right now?
Sure. Well, to not make it too long, as you said, I'm EK Confidence, and EK Confidence is my superhero name. And I did not always believe I was a superhero. I grew up on the south side of Chicago with wonderful parents. But as you can see, I'm a chocolate skin lady. I was a chocolate little girl. I didn't always embrace this curly hair coming from my head. And so I got teased a lot. I was
Mm,
bullied. I was made to believe that I was not only was I not good enough, but I was ugly,
wow.
and it affected me. I used to be such a class clown, and I was always trying to make people laugh.
Hmm.
And it wasn't until recently that I started to ask these questions. You know, when you go on this journey of self discovery, the first question is, well, why? And then one why leads to another why. And
Yeah.
so you start peeling back these layers of this onion. And I don't know if you think about it, the part of the onion that makes you cry is in the center.
Mm,
And so the closer you get to the center, it's just like, oh my gosh, this actually goes way back to childhood trauma. And it
wow.
does for most of us. And I looked at things that I did in high school, just being real nasty, being a gossip, talking a lot of trash about folks.
Mm,
It really, you become an adult and you realize people like that don't have a problem with the people they're talking about. They really have a problem with themselves.
wow.
But unless you go through therapy, you don't know that. And so you're just spewing out all this hate and anger when really it's just a lack of love that has created this bitterness. And that's what I became. I was just a bitter individual. I got to college, it didn't go anywhere. And so I started leaning on intoxicants. I started smoking weed. And the funny thing is, I thought I liked being high, but I actually liked the community that it
Mm,
gave me, because there was a community of potheads and they were like my family. And you
wow.
know, I thought they loved me, did not realizing that this was a whole group of people that were hurting. And when weed wasn't enough, then I added alcohol to the mix. But the love still never really showed up. So then I started doing things like being loose with my body and giving my body to men couldn't that didn't care about me at all.
Mm,
But it's just that small moment of affection that in a twisted way felt like love. It just
wow.
kept me in this cycle of like going nowhere.
Wow.
I was fortunate enough to meet my husband in college, and you know, we've been together 20 years. We have four beautiful children. But even in the course of our marriage, I was still addicted. What had started off as a weed and alcohol habit turned into a full-fledged addiction. And, you know, we weren't very responsible. And instead of being responsible, I drank more.
Mm,
It's to forget about the fact that I was not being responsible. And a good friend of mine told me one day, we were talking about, because I have certainly been delivered from those addictions, but a friend of mine mentioned to me it was never about the drug. It was about not wanting to live life.
mm,
And I had a breakthrough. I realized that I was not happy with my life. I didn't want to I didn't have thoughts of suicide. Like it didn't get to that point,
Yeah.
but I wasn't happy with my life, and I didn't want to keep living that way. I didn't want to look up and be a 60-year-old weed addict. I didn't want to be a 65-year-old alcoholic. And I started praying. I knew that God had plans for me, but I think I was afraid or questioned if I could even live up to those plans. And I prayed. I had always had a connection to church, so I was never short on finding ways to pray or people to pray with. And I started to pray with people, and I started to pray by myself. And I asked God to take the desire to do those things away from me. I did not want to be a gossip. I didn't want to be nasty. I didn't want to be somebody that got drunk and just said anything or did anything and didn't care. And, you know, the funny thing about doing that is like I had a conversation with myself, like, are you sure this is what you want? Because if you ask God for it, he's going to give it to you. You know, that whole be careful what you wish for. It's like, be careful what you pray for. But I knew I was ready. And my rock bottom moment happened when I was in my backyard. I was smoking and I was crying at the same time because I literally did not want to do it. I had got up that morning and said I was done. And by that evening, I was out buying more weed. And it wasn't hard to find because I know so many people, and I was praying. I said, God, I don't want to do this. Like, I hate it. Not to be overly dramatic, but I felt like Pookie in New Jack City when he was like, when he had that, do you know what scene I'm talking about?
I vaguely remember New Jack City.
He was clean. He had been clean. And, he went undercover for Ice-T to work in the crack house, and he stole some crack. And he was literally crying as he was smoking. And that's how I felt in that moment.
Wow.
And the next day, and the few days after that, when I tried to smoke, it was so uncomfortable. And by uncomfortable, it's like my throat was literally on fire. And I tried to have a sip of champagne because that was my drink of choice. And one sip made me sick to my stomach.
Wow.
And I didn't realize in those moments that was God making it. Like, I thought that I would just have my aha moment and be done. But he took me through this process of deliverance. Deliverance is truly a process. I know that now. And I got to a point that it was so uncomfortable that I stopped completely. But then it was like I became uber aware of everything going on around me. That life that I wasn't living is now staring me in the face. My kids that I didn't really want to spend time with. It's like now they need all of my time and attention, and I'm sober. I can't run to those things to escape.
Wow.
I got this husband that I've been with for 20 years, and it's like, we got to have real conversation. Like, do I want to have a roommate or do I want to be happily married? And so I first had to deal with the thoughts that got me to that place in the first place. And I think the biggest revelation in that moment was realizing that I could change my thoughts and I could uproot the negative thoughts. And it's like, wait a second. I don't have to think that way anymore. I don't have to be all those names that people called me. It's like, I don't have to accept thinking that I'm ugly or thinking that my hair is nappy or just thinking that me being loud is a bad thing. Like, no, me being loud is actually a good thing. Me being extra, it makes me who I am.
Yeah.
And so once I started doing that, then it was like, okay, now I got to change this language because life and death is in the power of the tongue.
Yes,
and I had done a lot of death with my tongue, and now it was time for me to start creating life. And so I started to say things like, I love spending time with my children. I have the best relationships with my children, and my husband is a great guy and he's my best friend. Things that I had never said before. And it felt weird because it wasn't a fact at the time. But I have always said that God can change the facts.
Mm.
And he started changing those facts, and life started to get really good for me and for us. And then it was like, okay, these habits got to change. So instead of smoking, it's like, let's get up and go for a walk. Let's clean this house. Let's create a podcast. Let's get out there and start helping people that don't know that they are the help that they need. And I know it was probably a bit of a long-winded answer,
Oh no,
but
but I like
that's
it.
my story.
I like it because at some point we all have that turning point, right?
Yeah.
Where God says, okay, now it's time for you to start doing what I've called you to do. And it seems to me like your language changed, your attitude changed, your whole vision changed. And so is this the same moment that you said your name is EK Confidence? So is this the moment that EK Confidence was born?
Yes. And I'll tell you why. Before EK Confidence, there was EK 47. And she was very ratchet. And she was a bit of a gangster, a thug, and a proud thug.
Yeah.
She was a proud alcoholic. She didn't care if you didn't like her. And that was definitely a part of the breakthrough, because I had to say goodbye to her, and I had to let her go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, well, if that's not who I am, then who am I? And one thing that led to me doing all that stuff was a lack of confidence. If you are always talking negatively about a child, that does something to their self-esteem. And so I thought that I had low self-esteem. I used to tell people that. And God told me one day, he's like, you don't have low self-esteem. You have just as much confidence as the most confident people. And it's just like, I do. First it's like I do, then it's like I do, And I had this vision of a superhero named EK Confidence, and she looked like me and she talked like me. And I need little girls to know that they're superheroes. They are not what people say that they are. So yes, to answer your question, yes.
That is awesome. This superhero pitch, if it is anything, for little girls, and you're seeing that now with little girls looking up to Wonder Woman and some of these Marvel characters like Captain Marvel, and then the general from Wakanda. Little girls are looking for those symbols of strength and confidence. Is this something that you wanted to provide little girls? Is a symbol, a sign, an example, if would, that you can put a superhero badge on your chest with your name and say, look, you go be whatever you want to be. Is that something that is your passion?
It is my passion. And the funny thing is, I was thinking about little girls when all this came about, but not in the way you would think. I was thinking about the little girl that's walking around in these grown women that are wearing this face of confidence. And really, there's the scared little girl just playing dress up. And I thought about that, but then I realized I can help them and help the little girl at the same time. If that makes sense.
That makes perfect sense. Most superheroes have this quiet character. Clark Kent turns into Superman, right? Clara Danvers turns into Captain Marvel. And so most of them have this other person, and that you have to dig through to get to the superhero.
Yep.
As I'm listening to your story, like you said, just like that onion, there was something you had to get to just to get to the real person. And you see this all the time with not only ladies, but I mean, there's some men who struggle with this confidence thing. What has been some of the things now that even now that you're walking in, that you're seeing amongst some of the women or the young girls that you maybe mentor or you're coaching through? What are some of the things you see, hurdles that you see they have to dig through?
First thing comes to mind is this thing called imposter syndrome. And that's this feeling that you don't belong in the rooms that God places you in. And working in corporate America for 15 years and being in sales for the last 7 of those years, I often found myself in rooms and I felt like an imposter. Like, how did I get in here? It's almost like I felt like I was hiding a secret, and the secret was I wasn't as smart as everybody else in the room. I didn't have the knowledge because I work in tech sales and I wasn't the most technical. And so I discounted the skills that I did have because I was focusing on what I didn't have.
Wow.
And that was even a whole breakthrough because I thought about, there's this quote from Maya Angelou that says, I am the hope and prayer of a slave. And I would sit in those rooms and be the only, not only the only Black face, but sometimes the only woman. And I would think to myself, like, somebody prayed for me to be in this room. And I don't believe in coincidence, and everything God does is on purpose for a purpose. So if I believe all those things, then I am more than qualified to be sitting here. And instead of me being uncomfortable, I'm going to make them uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I started speaking up. And that's the thing about these hurdles. You have to jump over them.
Yeah.
You know, there's gonna always be a hurdle. And you're gonna have to jump though. I can tell you, I can pour into these women all day long. I can pour into them all day long, but nothing's gonna happen until they lift up that left leg and that right leg and move forward. So yeah.
That's good. And so now you're on Clubhouse now.
Yeah.
And tell us about that. What's going on Clubhouse?
So I've been a Toastmaster for about 5 years. That's a public speaking club, and it's all about public speaking because I love to speak. And then Clubhouse came about, and I had heard nothing but negative things about Clubhouse. So I was like, cool, I don't have to go there because it's all bad. And I invested in myself. I took a coaching program, and then at the end of the coaching program, a friend of mine invited me to be a moderator on Clubhouse. And I believe that God brings opportunities to me for me to take them. And so when that happened, my first reaction was like, I don't want to do that, which let me know that was something that I needed to do. And so I did the first room, and I believe that God told me, this is where you need to be. This is how you're going to reach the people that I need you to reach. And I didn't want to do it.
Wow.
And I said, I just got this public speaking thing down. You know, I'm doing great. I'm mentoring folks on how to speak. And now you want to get me in this whole uncomfortable, it's like being put in a new room with a bunch of new kids that don't know you. And half of them don't like you, you know, and it's like, I don't want to go there. But I hate the thought of disobedience. I hate the thought of it. And so I started going in more and more rooms. I started connecting with people like you and made a few friends. And after I had gathered enough information, it was like, okay, you got to jump. So I started hosting rooms on confidence and the circle of influence. We're doing a room this Friday called The Importance of Your Prayer Circle. And because I'm at a point now where I did it my way for so long that it's like, okay, God, I will do whatever you tell me to do and make sure that you're glorified at the end of it.
Yeah. And
so all of my rooms are about giving God glory at the end of the day.
That is awesome. And I'm excited. You're not only are you on Clubhouse, but you have a new coaching program that you're getting ready to release. What's going on with that?
Another thing, I was just like, God, what are you doing? It was like, why can't I just make myself better? But then I know, and I believe that my life is not my own. We were not created just to live these nice, comfortable lives. If we are not affecting the lives of others, then we are not doing our God assignment.
Come on.
And so for the longest, I was just like, okay, God, how am I supposed to do this? And a friend of mine said, well, maybe your mess is your message. And I am transparent, but I didn't want to just talk about myself and my mess every time I spoke. However, every time I did talk about my mess, I made a new connection. I gave hope to somebody I didn't even know. And so that's what I do. So I created this coaching program because I know that there are a lot of women out there who love to watch superhero movies, and they don't know that they love to watch them because they are one that themselves. You know, so many people are reaching for God because they think they need God, and God is already in them.
Come on.
And it's like, once you realize that Jesus is not just Jesus, but he's your brother, and you have the same inheritance that he has. And you can do the same thing. Like, we act like Jesus was this superhero. And it's like, no, God gave you everything he gave Jesus, you know, but do you have the courage to walk in it? Are you okay with having things thrown at you and being spit at? And I'm talking about figuratively.
Right.
Because when you take this walk, you automatically get a target on your back. And so it's not for the faint of heart. There's a bravery and a sense of courageousness that comes with this, that it's like, you know what, God, I'd rather be over here and be ordinary. You know, I don't want to be a soldier for the kingdom. And so it's my mission to help these women that aren't afraid to do it. They just don't know that they're capable. And so that's what I do. We start with the thoughts, move on to the language, and then we look at the habits. And if they're ready to do the work, then they will certainly see a transformation like I have. And so that's what I'm doing out here.
I love it.
These streets.
I love everything that you're doing. And if you're just now tuning in to this episode, I'm sitting here with Ek Confidence, and she is doing some marvelous work helping ladies and young ladies understand that they are superheroes. There's a superhero on the inside of you. And Ek, what I like to do is I let all of my guests have the final thought. And I'm going to let you have that final thought, and you could do that in the form of a prayer and last little inspirational word that you want to leave with everyone. But before I do, I want to remind all of the listeners and viewers that on June 24th and 25th coming up is a 2-day camp for pastors, leaders, and influencers called Pastor Plus. And we're getting you in the room. Pastor, listen to me. Minister, listen to me. Influencer, getting you in the room and helping you understand that just like Ek, there's something else for you to be doing in this world, not just standing in front of the pulpit every week, but there's somebody for you to reach, a young boy, young girl, a man or woman, somebody that needs your help in other skills and gifts and talents that you have. And we want to show you how to package that up. So on June 24th and the 25th, the Pastor Plus Camp. Go to my website, cajohnson.org, for more information. Here to give us our final thought, our final word of inspiration is Ek Confidence.
Thank you, Pastor Chris. And while you were talking, I couldn't help but think that I guess what God wants me to share is that your mess is the message. We all go through things, and when you're in the storm, you can't help but wonder, why me? Or be like, why is this happening? What have I done? Why is thou forsaken me? Right? But at the end of the day, it's like, if God brought it to us, it's because we are more than capable of overcoming that thing. And we overcome so that we can teach others how to overcome. And so I would just encourage anybody who is feeling stuck or feeling lost, that you are not lost. You are strategically placed and planted where you are right now. And if you need help, just reach up your hand and ask God to grab it and help you. He will do just that. And keep putting one foot in front of the other, and you're going to make it on the other side, and you're going to look back and you're going to be like, wow, I did that. And so thank you for having me on this platform. It's been truly a pleasure. And if there's any way I can help your ministry moving forward, let me know. I would be happy to.
Awesome. So awesome. EK, tell us how we can get in contact with you, how we can connect with you. All of our listeners and viewers would love to get connected with you.
Awesome. I host a weekly podcast called Your Confidence Reconnected that is on all of the podcast platforms. And if you want to connect or collaborate or just ask me a question, you can find me on Instagram at EK Confidence. And there's my link tree with the website and everything else. So look for me on Instagram. Thanks so much.
Awesome, everybody. This has been another episode of the Pastor Plus podcast. I've been sitting here talking with EK Confidence. This is your boy, Bishop Chris Johnson, and AKA the Greatness Coach. Until next time, God bless you.